Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of the Game Changers podcast. My name is Quincy Gis, and it's a privilege and pleasure to be here with you as usual. In this episode, my conversation with Maya George delves into the world of sports. Recently, we have had a buzz in sports with the Kings' recent win of the latest CPL and, of course, Julian Alfred's Olympic medals in the recent Olympic Games in Paris. Maya will have a conversation with me about the social impact and economic development that can be derived from sports. I must warn you that this interview was conducted before St. Lucia Kings won the CPL title so that you can have a little bit of context. Anyhow, I know you will love this conversation. Enjoy. Hello, Maya. How are you doing?
Hi, good day. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Happy to have you on. I've heard good things about you, and I guess I'll hear more good things about you throughout this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope I live up to those good things that you heard.
I hope so too. But I'm not worried. All right. So let's get straight into it. Before I ask any searching questions, I just want to ask you to give my audience a general idea of who you are in your own words.
For sure. So my name is Maya George. Saint Lucian. I I enjoy basketball from the time I was a little girl. I've more or less played basketball or I've been involved in basketball for majority of my life, almost at all stages of basketball. And so I just enjoy the sport, and I've decided that that's what I want to do as a career. And that's a lot about who I am and where I started. I also did my degree in psychology and my postgrad in sports business management. And so with all of that, I am just somebody who loves basketball at the core of it.
Beautiful. All right. So would you say that you are a sports business person, or would you call yourself an athlete? Which one would be better?
At at one point in my life, I was an athlete. I can still ball. Like, let's not get it twisted. That the bag is deep,
Okay,
but
great.
right now, I would say more so of a sports business person.
Beautiful. I like that. All right. So tell me about your journey in sports business and psychology. And I mean, there must be an interesting story how these two worlds came together. So I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, what can I say but God, right?
Mm-hmm.
In 2020, amidst the pandemic, I started my degree in psychology in all hopes of becoming a psychologist. In 2020 also, when the pandemic hit, I got the opportunity to come back home and school was online. So although I had moved to Canada for university, it didn't work out that way. I got to come home and do university while in St. Lucia. And I started off the summer of 2020 with a basketball camp for girls, primarily girls. And that kind of just took off. Once the basketball camp was done, we decided to create a club with the same young ladies that we worked with during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kept growing and getting bigger and bigger. And once I was done with my psychology degree, I had to make a tough decision as to whether I was going to master in psychology and continue on that route,
Mm-hmm.
or go into sports, which at that point on the administrative end had become more so of a hobby, something that I enjoy doing and something that I got a lot of pleasure and a lot of happiness in. And so at that point, I decided that, okay, maybe the psychologist could probably still come later on, but I decided to do my postgrad in sports business management. And I don't think up to a day like today, I think that was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Beautiful. So I'm seeing that you chose to follow your passion, basically.
Definitely.
All right.
Definitely. Yeah. That's what it was.
All right. But I find that these two fields are pretty interesting, and you would agree with me that they work together, right?
Of course, they do. Once you work with people, psychology is useful on all fronts. And because I choose to work a lot in the social impact through sport realm, psychology has been more than useful in my line of work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how then does psychology play a role in the business side of sports, at least? Well, in sports in general.
Yeah. So, of course, psychology is very multifaceted. It could be used in
Right.
so many different ways. However, the way that I choose to use it outside of mental health with athletes and stuff like that, which is also very important, I chose to go the direction of social impact through sports. And when we talk about social impact, we talk about how can we use sport, which is typically or normally used as a form of entertainment for impact amongst young people and people of different backgrounds. As we know, sport has the ability to bring people together like no other. And we could take, for example, Julian Alfred in the last like 3 months in St. Lucia. We could say how we've seen St. Lucia really come together behind Julian. And so for me, the way that I merge psychology and sports business is how do we create programs or create an infrastructure even for sports to be used as a catalyst for social change?
Wow. That's very, very interesting. So what are some of the ways to utilize sports as an avenue for social change?
For sure. So I can give you a couple examples just within basketball because that's my sport of choice. So one of the projects that I'm actually working on as we speak is the Bringing Buckets Home program, which is for young kids to learn and play the game of basketball. Basketball or any sport, none in particular, has the ability to give a child community, to help them grow, to become better leaders, to find their space in the world, to find like-minded individuals, people who love the same thing as them. And so you tend to see that being able to keep them off the streets, to keep them away from drugs, to give them positive influences, positive people to look up to. And so just so that this particular program is geared towards primary school children. So you kind of get them in that sweet spot when they're still looking for their interests and looking for what they're going to continue doing for the next 5 to 10 years of their life. And so that's just one
Right,
example.
right.
And so one of the things that we had as an objective was to keep the youth away from crime, give them something to do after school, give them an interest, give them something that they will continue to do into secondary school. And so that's just one way. That's just one way sports can be useful in that category. I also had the pleasure of interning with the Toronto Raptors in the organizational culture department. And we worked on programs where we were able to through basketball provide certain requirements or necessities for young people or people of difficult backgrounds, for example, or people who are not as fortunate as we are. And seeing all of that and using basketball to do all these things is really a plus.
Absolutely. I like that you are utilizing sport for youth development, particularly giving them something to do. Because even the Bible says that idle hands
Yeah,
are the devil's workshop.
yeah,
And we know that young people can engage in all manner of things.
for sure.
But I'm seeing that you're giving them something positive to do with their lives. And I think that's commendable, first of all.
Mm,
But I also think that it's important
yeah.
because, um, particularly in our society, just speaking from a St. Lucian context,
Mm-hmm.
we realize how crime and violence has unfortunately taken over our nation. And I believe that if young people actually have avenues or places that they can go and things that they can actually engage in, they will be better equipped to, first of all, handle their own conflicts
Yeah,
and also have something positive to do so that they can develop themselves otherwise. Would you agree
definitely.
with that?
Oh, I would agree 100% with that. I would even add on that sports also teaches discipline, it teaches leadership, and these are things that we see sometimes missing in our young people. And so even dedication, having instead of going out and misbehaving, you choose to come on the court instead. And these are the type of things we try to instill in our young athletes, and all that is all part of the program that we'll be putting together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I look forward to hearing a bit more about that going
Mhm.
forward. All right. So let's talk about sports as a tool for economic development as well. Because, I
Okay.
mean, we see all what is happening with Julian Alfred. I mean,
Yeah.
people are so interested in St. Lucia. All of a sudden, we have individuals wanting to come to St. Lucia just to hear or see where Julian Alfred is from. So speak about sports as a tool for economic development.
Yeah. So thank you. That's a very good question. Sports as a tool for economic development has been used all over the world. I think what we've done with Julian Alfred is definitely a step in the right direction. We've making her a tourism ambassador for St. Lucia. Um, sport has the ability, like sports tourism is a rising sector, and saying that tourism is St. Lucia's biggest industry right now, sports tourism should not be too far down on the list of coming ups, right? Um, when I say sports tourism, I talk about hosting a bigger events. So, for example, we heard the minister, or was it the prime minister, saying about hosting a Julian Alfred
Right.
Classic. Very recently we had a netball
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean tournament being done in St. Lucia. And so just having more tournaments and more opportunities like that for athletes to come into St. Lucia, or for people in general to come into St. Lucia to be around sport. And like I say, sport brings together community. And so I think looking at it through sports tourism it would assist with our economic development a lot. We could also look at like job creations that presents itself during sports events. For example, when we had the cricket,
Absolutely.
how many people actually
Mm-hmm.
got work? How many people got work and were able to, you know? And so the more stuff that we're able to do like that, the better it will be. It'll create some more jobs and definitely assist our economy in its development.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm happy you brought up cricket because I was going to ask you about that as well. Because this year we saw, I mean, an international World Cup actually come to St. Lucia. I mean, what
Yeah.
an amazing year it has
Yeah.
been for St. Lucia in sports in general.
I must say. I must say, with the Kings coming up
Here
on the
we go.
finals, hoping to win their first championship, it has
It's in
been
here.
an amazing year in sports
It
for
really
St.
has
Lucia.
an
Yeah.
unprecedented year, but let's hope that we can utilize what happened this year to enhance sports in general in St. Lucia, because I think it's important for us. And one of the things that I want to pinpoint, and you can comment on that as well, is the need for sport infrastructure as well in St. Lucia. We see fields, courts, areas like that being beaten up and torn up because they're not taken care of, right? And then obviously we need more of them. We need more fields, but those that we have are often not taken care of. So speak to the importance of that as well.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And that's something, whilst we were speaking, it actually came to mind. I think that issue is twofold. One, in that the first of it is that when we are given these infrastructures, us as a people, we need to take care of it and not, vandalize or destroy. Ensure that we take some pride in what we have. On the second hand of it, we do need better infrastructure in terms of more spaces that are readily available to host games and tournaments and stuff like that. where we don't need to, just before the tournament is coming up, where we have to pump so much money into
Yeah.
ensuring that the area is ready. And, just to tie back into your last question about how can it be used for economic development? Another thing we see happening is that a lot of our athletes have to go out of St. Lucia to train. I know of athletes who go to Grenada or who go to Jamaica to train. And so having better infrastructure could even open up St. Lucia as a training option, not only for local athletes, but also regional and even international athletes, because we have natural resources that they could use in their rehab and in preparation for tournaments. I mean, if you think about it, let's take, for example, if we could get the likes of Julian Alfred and some of her teammates or people that she trained with to come to St. Lucia, they have a good field that they could train on. Then there's the beach that they could do their running on, and then they could go to the Sulphur Springs to get a hot bath. I mean, these are some things that would open up a lot for us in St. Lucia. So I think, and I do believe that it's getting better and it's coming along, and everything takes some time, but in the long run, these are things that can definitely be looked at.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And yeah, we often don't embrace our natural resources in St. Lucia, because some countries in the world wish they had what we have in St. Lucia.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. They create hot baths where we have a natural hot bath, right? So
absolutely.
Definitely.
I was even thinking while you were speaking, since you brought up Julian Alfred, Puma has taken interest in St. Lucia, and we know that these sports brands tend to like to build facilities or put their names on certain things. So I was wondering, maybe even that we could see Puma, building a Puma sports facility in St. Lucia, whether it's named after Julian Alfred or something, and then we can actually have proper infrastructure so that the athletes can have a place to train, but also Puma themselves can, achieve their marketing goals as well.
Right. I think that would be amazing. And with the rise of the Julian Alfred Foundation, I definitely believe that she can do so much and that she will do so much with what she has been given. And even with Puma giving every child from the Cicero primary school a pair of, it just goes to show you how interested and how they're ready to invest into the next Julian Alfred. And so I hope that we take advantage of all that comes, and hopefully we could get them into other sports as well.
And not just track. I agree. But we did a St. Lucian basketball team, whether it be 3x3 or 5x5.
Of course.
Do something.
Definitely sponsored by Puma.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. All right. So we're moving on to one of my favorite segments of an interview. It's called a quick hitter segment. And this segment will speak a little bit about my other person rather than just the sports professional. So it's light-hearted. Answer them as quickly as possible, and we'll move on. All right? Okay, great.
Yeah.
So first quick hitter question. What do you like to eat?
That's a good question.
Okay,
dumpling,
great.
Dumpling, anything dumpling. Bouillon, white dumpling, yeah. That's
absolutely. Tell me you're a Lucian without telling me you're a Lucian.
Always, everywhere I go.
All right. Second question. Who is your hero? That might be a tougher question.
My hero. I'd have to.
This ad slot could be yours. In a world filled with stories, make yours resonate. Introducing Prime ad slots on our podcast, the gateway to a captive audience eager to hear your message. Secure your exclusive ad slot now. Contact via our Instagram page to find out more.
Say my mother.
Oh,
My
wow.
mother, definitely. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Seeing her too also in the sports realm and her as an individual, she's amazing. And I don't think I would be where I am today without her. So yeah, definitely my mother.
Absolutely. I like that. Final question. Who would you like to see on Game Changers? Who would you like to see on this podcast?
Keeping it in the sports realm, I'd definitely say Makiba Alcide.
Okay.
Makiba Alcide. She's another young person who's really making a name for herself and really putting a spot on her back. And so I think she would be the perfect person.
Yeah, for sure. We love to have Makiwa on. I've heard good things about her. I've heard her speak as well, and she sounds very, very good. So, I mean, a perfect fit for the podcast. Absolutely. All right. So we're moving on to the back end. I'm going to ask you about technology and analytics in sports. With the rise of
Right.
technology and analytics, how can psychological insights complement data-driven decisions in sports management? So how can the numbers inform decisions?
Of course, with anything, numbers are important, right? When you make a decision on the business end, there's always numbers that come up that will help you to know if you did in fact make a good decision, or if maybe the next time you have to change and make another decision. And so I think with all the technology, even the AI and all of those new stuff coming up, I think it's very useful. And if used in the right way, that it will really make an impact in sport, not just on the business side, but also on the athletic side of things.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. You know, and I think, I mean, in the Caribbean, we don't really utilize it as we should yet. Again, infrastructure,
Right.
and you know, we need to get there. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that is definitely where the world is going. And the more numbers we know, the better we become. You know, they say data is king. And with other numbers,
Yeah.
you know, we cannot improve on anything. So absolutely, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to my next question. How do you manage, and that's more of a personal question, how do you manage the pressures
Yeah.
of working in such a competitive environment, both personally and professionally?
That's a that's a very good question. It is a very competitive environment, but honestly, to me, it's just trying to keep up with what's new,
Okay.
ensure that I'm reading and I know what's happening, not only in Saint Lucia but in the world when it comes to sports. In terms of myself, I try to put myself in the best position to be able, so that if anything comes up, that I'm able to stand up to the to whatever it is, in terms of like taking small courses that would just give me one leg up, so it's very competitive. It keeps you on your toes. I think sports on a whole is there's always a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you find yourself getting lost in everything that's going on, but just trying to stay focused on what it is you're trying to accomplish. Yeah, that's about it for me.
For sure. For sure. And I like the fact that you spoke about staying focused, because in anything in life that you want to achieve, you must put your effort and perseverance. And that boils down to being focused, because sometimes I feel like we get sidetracked and want to do all kind of things at the same time, and then it messes us up. So I think that's important.
Yeah.
What you said about, staying the course and staying focused.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree.
So my next question to you then will be, a young person is looking at this interview and is fascinated not just by you, but he wants to have a career in sports, whether it be become an athlete or go on to the business side, the management side, the agency side, maybe even the sports science side. What advice would you have for that young person?
My advice would be to start small.
Okay.
Always start small and build. Especially in St. Lucia, when it comes to the athlete side, I think that has already kind of mapped out itself.
Mm-hmm.
You get involved at a club level or at a school level, and then you kind of just build your way from there. But the sports management, sports administrative, sports science side is a little different in the sense that you kind of have to form your own path, so to speak. That's how I feel about it. There's no one way to do it. I decided to go the psychology sports business side,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so many other ways that you could go about it. And so it's very much a trial and error process. Like I said, I would advise anybody to start small. My sports management journey started through the hosting of um, youth basketball camps,
Mm-hmm.
and it has grown tremendously by the grace of God. You know what I mean? And so far, I've been able to work with in Saint Lucia with the youth through the club that myself and some of my teammates created, Net Blazers Basketball Club. I've also been able to work with the Toronto Raptors as an intern.
Wow.
And even right now, I'm in Ghana working with a basketball club. And so again, I didn't know that's what would have come out of
Right.
me just starting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so start small and grow and grow. Find somewhere that you see that you could fit in and be of change and be helpful, and grow from there.
Absolutely. Beautiful advice. I think that advice works for everybody, not just sport professionals, but professionals in general. It's important to start small, and you never know what can become of it. But put your best foot forward. And
Yeah.
if Julian Alfred has taught us anything, is that St. Lucians and Caribbean people can be world class if we put our mind to it.
100%. We have so many talented people in St. Lucia. It's just up to you to kind of put your head down and do what you have to do. A lot of the beginning of sport is voluntary, which means you don't make any money off of it directly, like off the jump.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep going and you just keep pushing, it definitely has its perks, I must say.
For sure. And you will reap the benefits in the end.
Absolutely.
All right. Maya, I have one more question for you. What is
Okay.
next for you?
That's I wish I could answer that question. I wish I could answer that question. But opportunities tend to open up themselves as you go. Like I said a while ago, right now I'm in Ghana, on the motherland, working with some young people, kind of again through social change and sports and basketball, creating programs for young people. And simultaneously, we're also running the Bringing Buckets Home program, which is a program happening in St. Lucia. And I just want to big up Miss Petal Brown for being my partner on this. And in fact, for her bringing me in on this, because she was the one who came up with the idea. And so I still have quite a bit going on. And once I'm done here, the world is really my oyster. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
For sure. And we look forward to hearing more from you. I'm very excited for you. It's always amazing to see fellow St. Lucians doing amazing things wherever they are. And I want to thank you for coming on to this podcast today. Don't be a stranger. Feel free to come back whenever you want to. Once you have something to talk about, I'll provide the avenue. Once we set it up, I'll have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. And I look forward to coming back, I must say.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I look forward to having you again. Okay, guys. So this has been yet another episode, and to thank you for coming on and listening to this episode. Remember to like and subscribe. Remember to follow Game Changers across platforms. Also, Game Changers merchandise is coming back on stream very, very soon. So look out for that. And yeah, stay tuned. And as usual, stay hungry. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.